That's somewhere else, right? You know,
Yeah.
you know, either you're inside that little box playing a little game.
Just let them make believe.
Yeah, exactly. Well, my mom used to think, like, when she was a little girl, she actually listened to the radio back before TV, and they didn't have TVs, and she believed that there was little bands, little bands playing music, little tiny people in the radio. You know, so.
There are.
Wait a minute, are you saying there isn't? Wait a
Oh, I'm so.
Hold on a second.
Let's talk about Santa. Okay?
Whatever. So, there isn't.
No, there's
okay.
Anyway, that's kind of interesting, and you think of it from that perspective when you look at that, like, you know, to have that wonder again and that feel, you know, that's I think what we can get to. That's what I feel good about doing anime sometimes, is when you get kids that are like, or anybody for that matter, that experiences that little spark of joy and stuff. That's
It's like when women do boy voices, like I'm sure Christy's on some Christy play. In Death Note, I was near, and other boy voices that women do, because we will use children first, because it's the most authentic thing, so we want the real thing.
Yeah.
Truly do.
We call them ringers.
What?
Yeah,
Yes,
we
we
bring
do.
in a ringer.
Do we?
Yeah, we do.
Bring a
Yeah,
ringer.
when you bring in a little boy for a little boy's voice.
That's right.
That's a ringer.
That's a ringer.
Yeah, and
But then, sometimes the clients want to expand, but they can't read. Well, you know, kids that start about like I'd say 9 years old is like the earliest, unless you have a really smart 8-year-old child. But then they have to do a 4-hour session, which is usually like, well, it depends. If it's a play, it's 4 hours, and it's ADR, it's as long as your role is. But their attention spans are kind of sometimes tough to work with, and etc. So like 9 or 10 is when we kind of start the real kids, but that's why they bring in a lot of the women to do what voices. So again, you wouldn't imagine us doing.
it's like the Bart Simpsons.
Whatever.
But the Bart Simpsons done by a woman, you know, I mean, all the best.
It doesn't necessarily fit.
Nancy Cartwright. Nancy
The
Cartwright.
lady up here had a question.
Oh, actually, this is, I was gonna ask you earlier, but I forgot. But this is for me. Do you find it easier just to memorize your stuff?
You shouldn't,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because you'll come off microphone a lot of the time, and you're on a microphone too, so if you're memorizing it, you could lose your place. If it's ADR as well, then there's like matching that has to be done to a point, and you kind of have to look up a little bit. So if you have 1 or 2 lines or just a few, you can memorize it and then work with the picture really well, but you're kind of looking up all the time in ADR anyways. And in prelay too, it's the same sort of thing. You try to visualize by listening, as opposed to looking at each other. Because you look at each other like you would in a TV show, or you're doing a television acting, you come off mic.
It's like this. So you know what you mean by off mic? Like it'd be like you're talking to.
The microphone's here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It won't pick up your
So
voice.
it's like the lady in Singing in the Rain.
Yeah, you're right. Well, sort of, but yeah, a little different.
She kept
Yeah.
going like this.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah. No, you're right. That's exactly what it's like. The voice doesn't pick up as much. And plus, what Kathy's saying too is, like where this gentleman's sitting, there'll be a TV monitor there, and they're for ADR, and they're playing us the Japanese version or whatever version of the show, and we have to watch their mouth flaps and make sure we finish when their mouth finishes.
Yeah.
You know.
That's
We
tough.
get 3 beeps, beep, beep, beep. What would be the 4th beep?
That's
is when
where
we
you
deliver the
start.
line.
You start
Yeah.
talking.
Yeah.
And then if you go too long, you pick it up, so you make it faster. And
It's an incredible learning curve when you're doing that because, and I know this, you know, being a person of visual, you know, I have some visual.
Is that what you were saying? Like
It's very
visual-
difficult
yeah,
because I have to bring the television up a little bit closer so that I can read what's being said, or I look at, because I have to see the time code. And then I have to read what's on the script, and when it goes beep, 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 and on that 4th beep, I do try and memorize as much as I can for that, but it's really, I have to do this, I have to look, and I gotta keep my mouth focused on the microphone while my eyes are looking down here, it's not fun.
So
It's-
if he's doing a line and he's like say got a 3-sentence line, do you have to count in your head like? 10
No, you
lines?
don't really have to count it, because it's counted for you, you hear the beep, 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 so.
Yeah.
the lines that are written, they sort of, it fits your natural rhythm of speaking.
Yeah.
So as long as you start on time, likely you're going to end pretty close to the ending.
Yeah.
And they also can just edit it so that they can take out spaces if they want to tighten the whole thing, or you just do it again and pick it up a little bit.
Yeah,
So
and for,
there's guidelines.
So Daniel was going to say that.
Well, just saying the trickier thing, I mean, they're talking about doing prelay, or sorry, ADR, and having to watch the mouth flap. In film and TV, you'll often have to do ADR for yourself. So if looping, so or they'll add a dialogue, like on the day, like, you know, there's a story point that we need to add an extra line, or you have to then watch yourself and put yourself in the headspace of what was I going through on that day, and what was I thinking when I said that line. And more times than not, it's like, I can't believe I spoke that line that fast. It's like, now I have to redo it.
I shot a gig out here, one of my first gigs like 12 years ago was out here, and they said, don't worry, we're deep in the background, you'll never see it. But no, they had a camera set up, and he had a zoom lens, and he was shooting me the whole time. And something didn't work out with the scene they were supposed to shoot, so they used that as the opener. I didn't write it down, and I had to force myself to remember and watch the scene again and again. So after that, I always learned, if I had to, they said, improv anything off camera, I always write it down, because it took me hours to get it done. And one time I shot a thing at the sewage treatment plant out by, whatever, New Westminster or something. The director was like, oh, we love the environment, it's noisy, it's great, it's perfect.
It's toxic.
I had 150 passes of dialogue for a TV show. That's unheard of. That's insanity. I was in there for 3 or 4 hours. Normally you do ADR or looping. You're in there, you're in and out in like 15, 20 minutes maybe.
Yeah.
You know, I was there for 3, 4 hours.
And sometimes in the early days, especially like, what was the Adrian, what's his face, Highlander?
Yeah.
Or one of the older days, they used to have other actors
Adrian
come
Paul.
in. That's right, Adrian Paul. And they would have other actors come in and actually, they would have to sometimes recast the original actor, which would be that they weren't available, so they could have been in the UK or something like that, or they didn't, oddly, want to have them do it again. It was a weak voice or something, so they bring us in sometimes to do specialties. And this is where the trick is, because it's actually a television performance, which is very subtle. So we have to really watch that. We got to get the beeps, and we have to, when we start off, we have to really watch the subtleties, because it's natural acting. So you can't even, you don't want the flaps to be seen. So it's very, very subtle, very accurate stuff. And there was an episode of Adrian Paul talking to himself when he was a boy. I don't know what the episode was, but anyways, it's like a jail thing. And this boy, very attractive little boy who looked like him, of course, when he was younger, but he had like a Scottish accent. And so they asked me to come in. I'm like, what? You know, well, you do boy voices, right?
You're a little Scottish boy.
Yeah. But this was like, you know, I'm not doing cartoons like this, you see. It's like really real. So, but anyway, it worked out. But the point was they actually recast actual television actor roles sometimes for those reasons, which I don't really like to say is great. But if they can't get them, we go in and do that. Entire roles sometimes.
Other questions? Up at the back?
That's kind of pertaining to why don't you guys use like the headset mics to when you're doing the voices? Because then you can actually look at what you're.
Oh, the headset mics are not, the levelers and the headset microphones are not as good as your Neumann microphones. I mean, we're talking about some really expensive technical microphones that pick up the nuances of everything. Everything. And you can't, and the ones that you get in the little wraparound microphones that you get in the helicopters, they're not good. I mean, they do the job of conveying what you're saying, but not for an actor. You don't get all the nuances, you don't get all the subtleties.
And you don't get the tonal range at all.
No, not at all.
You'll get a band, it's like this, you get a band about like that, whereas the mics he's talking about that we use, it's like everything.
Huge, yeah. You get everything. So that's why. And that's why you have to use professional microphones.
Yeah. Anybody else? Oh, go ahead, Pink Lady. Yes. Oh, wait, sorry.
Yeah. I hear there is now an Iron Man anime coming up that is in production with Marvel Studios. Would any of you be interested in reprising your roles for the anime?
No, never.
More work?
No.
Yeah, more work? No.
No, I'm not interested.
Yeah, I would.
All right.
That would be certainly awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily get to choose that, Josh.
Yeah.
We'll go and re-audition or audition again or whatever, but it boils down to the great gods that be that we never see.
Yeah.
It's a crapshoot. Honestly, it's a crapshoot. You do the best you can. We're all really good quality actors, but it boils down to what shade of green do they like the most.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, yeah.
someone in an office somewhere in LA makes the decision,
Yeah.
but we never meet in
Yep,
person.
you never meet,
Yeah.
never speak to.
Pink Lady.
Crapshoot, yeah. It's a dream.
Question about, for all of you, which do you find more challenging to do, prelay or ADR, and which do you prefer to do, like, you know, in an ideal job? Do you
Oh,
prefer-
ADR more challenging, prefer to be prelay.
Yeah.
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 Well, depends on the
Yeah.
director.
Yeah.
Still.
I
Well,
found-
yeah, well,
I don't know, I
yeah,
found-
but your
Yeah, I know.
challenges are unique.
Yeah, I know, but I still.
No, it doesn't.
But,
It's like-
to lift,
right?
to lift words off the page where you're not having to fit them into a
Yeah.
pattern, in any case,
That's
is
tough.
always better to be able to bring it to life yourself without being
Yeah.
confined.
And I find myself, like, I mean, I am probably, again, the novice of this group too, but I look at it and like, when you do like the ADR stuff, it's so difficult for me sometimes because all of us, we're trying to find the truth of what we're doing, but I find that the truth gets kind of squashed when, I'm sorry, I'm saying these lines and like, what's happening here? Like, you have to tell me what's going on or explain. I didn't know what the gun and double O and the suits that they wore. I had no idea what any of that stuff was.
Terminology.
Yeah, the terminology,
Yeah,
I had no
history,
idea, none of the
yeah,
history.
yeah.
So I had to learn everything and know what's going on, and then just trust after all, because I get caught up